Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Menswear Style Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Brooker, and today on the show we have the co-founder of Two Tribes, Justin Deighton. Two Tribes Brewery emerged from London's counterculture. They unite brewers, artists, musicians, chefs and craft creators with shared values of fun, freedom, curiosity and creative discovery. They are a community of people who come together to share a love of the moment. Their name reflects their constant thirst to bring new creatives into the fold to explore what they can bring from their tribe to theirs, essentially. Two Tribes is about cold beer and collaboration. It's that simple, and you can also check out Two Tribes online, twotribes.co.uk. And here to describe the brewery and the journey in his own words is co-founder Justin Deighton. Justin, are you the co-founder or founder?
I'm the founder, but co-founder, I suppose, is my wife.
Will you get in trouble if I call you the founder?
Yeah. No, she's been on the journey with me, and when we originally kind of came to starting Two Tribes, she actually came up with the name.
Oh, really?
So, and also, you know, as I say, she was by my side when we were doing that, and part of that journey as well. She's gone on to do much more exciting things than me, but she's definitely, been by my side for the whole journey. So, I'd like to say I'm the founder, but my wife is the co-founder as well.
Well, Justin, I'm going to include that in because I think that's actually quite interesting. But for the uninitiated, perhaps you could introduce yourself properly. And to your friends, how do you best describe Two Tribes?
My name's Justin Deighton, and I am the co-founder of Two Tribes. How do I explain what Two Tribes is about? Ultimately, Two Tribes is a brewery. We're a beer brand, but more than that, we're actually a beer brand that really is about a lifestyle culture, a lifestyle brand. You know, we want to incorporate a lot of the things that interest myself and my co-pilot Leo, who I work on all the creative with throughout the business. And, you know, our heritage is music industry, design, and just kind of club culture, fashion. All of these things are incorporated in everything we do at Two Tribes. So, yeah.
Interesting. So just take us back to when Two Tribes began. You mentioned before that you were from Chelsea, but you're now down in Brighton. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've lived all over London. Family originally from Chelsea, but I didn't live in Chelsea. Basically, I worked in the music industry for 25 plus years, from originally being a DJ, then getting a job at a record label, being, you know, doing promotions, club promotions, radio promotions in the early 90s. And then that led me to kind of work on launching record labels, and then going on to launch my own record label.
Oh, cool.
So I did that. My first record label I launched in 1993. So with that took me on a journey where I was producing, running a record label, A&R in a record label, promoting a record label, which incorporated DJing across the UK and then on to Europe and the world. So it was very much my life for a long time. Then around 2000, 2001, I decided to start working with my now wife, with a company that was called a creative production partner for the music industry. So what we did, we originally started off designing record sleeves and basically producing record sleeves, but it was more project managing the whole release. And then we moved on to CD packaging, working with advertising agencies and perfume packaging, fashion, and grew that business over 10 years. And then fortunately we were able to sell that business. So that was kind of the point where I looked around and thought, what am I going to do?
Now, what year is this, though? What point are we hitting?
Around 2012, we did that. We went on a gap year with the kids just to kind of get it out of our system, which was great. And when we came back to the UK, we kind of looked at opportunities that chimed with our skills, but weren't necessarily in the music industry. And the F&B industry was always a kind of something that interested my wife and I. So we looked at many things, but there was an element of what was happening with beer and the craft beer scene at that time that kind of chimed with mine or our skill set or we felt comfortable with. And that was, back in the 90s, you had guys that were making music in their bedrooms and pressing up 1,000 white label records and driving around their local city and selling the records to independent record stores. And dance music was moving very fast. It was very exciting, and these guys that were doing these independent things and changing the dial were actually creating a movement and creating a whole new scene that these kind of bigger, dominant music companies didn't know what the hell was going on because they were old dinosaurs, really. And I felt there was exactly the same thing happening in kind of 2012, 2013 with independent breweries and the craft beer scene.
Right.
There was guys brewing beer in their lockup or garage or backyard or whatever, and kind of filling up a van and driving around to all the indie pubs or bars and selling beer that was not commonly known in the styles that they were brewing.
Yeah.
And that's to me is really exciting, and that's why I ultimately got involved and started to kind of research it and see if I could get myself involved in it.
So what are the stepping stones at this point? Do you then go and buy a couple of demi-johns and try and get something going yourself, or are you going in a little bit higher end than that?
I went in at sort of higher level. It turned out there was a guy locally, because I'd moved to Brighton by then. There was a guy locally that I knew, and he had a couple of businesses, but one of them being a kind of a craft brewery or a small brewery. It wasn't necessarily brewing the beers that were interesting me. It was more brewing ales. There was a brewer there that had a lot of knowledge, and the guy that had that business basically was, had fallen out of love with it, really. He wanted to do other things. So there was an opportunity for me to go in there and learn and understand the business, understand the industry, and understand the product, really. learned to brew. Not that I ever wanted to be a brewer, but I believe if you're going to get into something, you need to learn from the ground up to be able to really understand what you want to achieve.
That's interesting. And so, did you know this guy at all before you approached him, or was it just very knocking
No,
on the door and
I
going, "This is my plan"?
doing this, and we just talked about what he wanted to do, and it was that sort of thing, really. So that I saw it as an apprenticeship, really. Before I went off and did my own brand or my own brewery, this was the apprenticeship I needed to do, which, to be honest, wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Because kind of, someone who hasn't kind of conformed to working for anyone or following anyone's kind of ideas apart from your own since they were early 20s is quite hard to kind of, shoehorn yourself into a business that you're not necessarily passionate about the product, but want to learn and understand. And that was the best way to do it.
Right.
And as I say, it wasn't easy, but it was. I'm really pleased I did it. I'm really pleased I did it.
And so I'm just curious, you had the gap year, you've come back and you've had a look around, and now you think, right, this is the project, I'm going to be an apprentice here. Did we kind of have enough money lying around for you to also just like take time off and do this project, or was there stuff going on elsewhere?
It wasn't, I sold a business. It wasn't life-changing that I went and bought an island instead of another business. I needed to work. I was still sort of only just around, late 30s. So, I needed to do something. And I had money. Of course, obviously I had money, but I needed to, I needed to be wise with it, really, because, getting into brewing can be quite expensive.
Well, that was going to lead me on to the next question. Did you seek kind of crowdfunding or angel investment, or was Two Tribes solely backed by?
It was a bit of serendipity, really. There was I got back in touch with contacts that I knew in the music industry, and I ended up being introduced to a guy called Paul Kemp, who actually owns the Tile Yard complex, which is the creative quarter, or whatever you want to call it, of where we live now, as far as in King's Cross, where the brewery is and where our campfire tap room is. So I got introduced to him. He was at a point when he was looking at investing into a business that would enhance Tile Yard.
Is this Cold Drops Yard? Is this somewhere close to that?
It's very close to Cold Drops, yeah. It's just off York Way. So he, at the time, Tile Yard is still, but at the time it was around 100 odd recording studios, music companies that were all based in sort of the same area. And there wasn't a lot around there. There wasn't a lot to keep the people that works there. It wasn't like anywhere where they could really go and have a drink after work or socialize or whatever. So he was keen to kind of provide that. And with me bringing the brewery idea and obviously, Two Tribes as a brand idea, which was very much associated with music and my background, it fitted. So he invested for us to basically build the brewery, which I did with my money, his money, and some asset finance as well.
It's a very, like you said earlier, quite a serendipitous meetings, I guess, and combining your journey in the past and where you are now in order to get that off the ground. I'm just thinking of it for anyone listening that is also trying to get their own brewery off the ground, how they can maybe follow in your footsteps. And I guess you can't really, because it's kind of who you know, where you are in your life, various passions, would you say?
I just think that's any business, really. I think you just said there, passions. If you've got a passion to do something, nothing's easy, right? Doesn't matter how much money you've got or whatever, or knowledge. You're always going to have hurdles that you've got to overcome with business, and I think you've just got to have the passion and drive to keep it going and get over those hurdles and just move forward always, and be positive about what you're doing and believe in what you're doing. Because if you start doubting your visions, then it's going to make it a lot harder to overcome any obstacles.
Yeah, I was just thinking this as we were talking. You mentioned your past of being a creative, I guess, a musician, being on the scene. This does feel like one industry where you also get to itch that creativity, if you know what I mean. You can also you can also kind of stretch your wings in this industry. And I'm going to just throw up a couple of graphics for anyone that's happening to watch this on YouTube, but I'm just going to walk through some of not just what's inside the can, but also what's outside the can. Do you find it quite rewarding, creativity wise, if that's a word, to do this stuff?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. That's kind of my that's my happy place. I'm very fortunate that I was able to kind of bring Leo on board with this journey, and he's amazing, way better than I'll ever be. But together we've formed this kind of creative force that's evolved from doing Two Tribes, and right from the early stages of just doing a tap badge or whatever, we're now in a different, I suppose, if you want to put a different world where we're thinking a lot about marketing assets and brand, and it's taught both of us an awful lot, but we've been on the journey together, and now I feel we're kind of as I say, it's our happy place. We can get locked in and do design or creative or whatever, or even we still make music, and we do that together a lot, and that's our happy place.
It must be quite convenient also being a DJ, because you can get to do your own launches. Like if you've got a new product coming out, a new party, it's like, well, who are we going to get in for the entertainment? It's like, well, you're looking at him, so you can always.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of that. I mean, I'm getting a little bit old for that really these days. I don't mind doing it every now and again as a bit of a hobby, and I do still really love it. But when I was in my prime, I used to get really pissed off if people asked me to do the warm up, and now I ask to do it. We've also partnered with a community radio station in King's Cross called Voices Radio, and that's something I'm passionate about, is supporting younger kids coming through, and basically giving them the opportunity to grow and sort of get their creative juices kind of out to the world, and that's great. So that's something we do, where it's a community radio station for us to, if we're doing a launch event and we use a Voices DJ, and they get some money for doing that, then that helps them continue doing the stuff they don't get paid for, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's really where we use, I suppose, mine and Leo's music talents, but we don't necessarily perform ourselves all the time.
Well, it's a force for good.
Yeah.
And on that, I wanted to talk about the AI campaign that you've got going, and perhaps you can just walk us through that. How has that come about?
Well, it came about that, to be honest, Leo and I were kind of heard through the grapevine about Midjourney, which is basically the kind of platform that we've created our sort of AI server on. And a lot of people within creative industries were playing around with this new resource of AI to, just for fun to start with. And we obviously got intrigued by it, and it just kind of, and played around with it, and it just evolved from there. We were like, well, look, the kind of our cans have collage artwork on them, which are sourced images that are that Leo and I collect over time.
It's very pop art, would you say, or is there another name?
We're kind of, we are kind of pop art fans. Hal Lotz is one of our favourite pop art artists, that's our style. So it made sense for us to be able to engage with our audience, with our drinkers, with our, you want to call it fans or whatever, to get them involved in the design and releasing a beer, basically. So it just kind of evolved from that.
And so this is purely the packaging, the branding, so they get the chance to put their own images and artwork on the cans.
Yeah,
using AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the way that it works is we've built this server within the Midjourney platform, who we've collaborated with on this, and anybody can go on there and suggest different themes or styles, coloring, and come up with and sort of Midjourney will come up with images with your suggestions.
Oh, this is so cool. I've just realized what this is. I've just wrapped my head around it. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically that's what it is. And we opened it up to our Two Tribes audience, and gave them a free rein to do as many entries as possible.
Right.
And if they log on to our server and just fire away and come up with ideas, then they were, we would be able to view them and pick our favorite ones to put on a can.
Nice. And is this still open? Was it a competition running, or are we?
Yeah, there's a competition running that's closed now.
Uh-huh.
But it was very successful. I'm sure we'll be doing something else with it, because it's a very sort of exciting project, and it's also a great way to engage with our drinkers.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is genius. And so, for example, could someone approach you and go, "Hey, I've got a great idea. I'm just going to feed a load of stuff in here and make my own label, my own can," and then give it to you, and you go, "I guess we could do that for you privately, but it'll cost X."
It's not really something I would want to spend time on, if you know what I mean. I would obviously feed back to anyone that wanted to, get some advice on stuff or whatever. But ultimately, Two Tribes takes up
enough time.
So, kind of doing things just for cash is not really kind of my agenda.
We're beyond that. That'd be nice. So, well, listen, Justin, where can people go to try the beer, but also order it, buy it, and get it in their homes?
You can order the beer on our web store, which is twotribes.co.uk, and we will deliver to your door. and then it's in various different independent bottle shops around London. So yeah, our best place is our web store, really.
Awesome. And can people visit the brewery at all? Can they come see you?
You can come to Campfire, which is our venue. We built a, it's not really a tap room. It's a bar that we built out of a couple of shipping containers, and we also have a fire kitchen there. So it's is that
in Brighton?
No, that's in King's Cross in London.
Oh, cool. Oh, right. So just down the road.
Yeah.
How often do you get down there?
I'm in London 3-4 times a week, depending on my week.
Awesome. And people can come in unannounced, or do you have to phone ahead?
Oh, no. It's open to the public whenever.
Oh, great. All right. Well, listen, we'll leave all the links over on the show notes over at menswearstyle.co.uk. But if you're in London, and by the way, if you're in Brighton as well, we were talking offline about how I used to work in Brighton. I don't know if people realize how close Brighton is to London on the train. I mean, it sounds like it's far away because it's coastal, but it really is just a, 30, 40 minute train ride right out of Victoria.
Depending whether there's leaves on the line.
Yeah, I mean, depending if there are people to drive the trains, obviously, then it's a shortish trip.
There's 2 tribes in Brighton as well, actually. There's a lot of pubs that serve 2 tribes in Brighton. So come down and visit when the weather's a bit warmer.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, Brighton is also like one of the more bohemian cities still, I think, in the UK. That is open to new ideas, is open to artists. It feels like, all the creators left Shoreditch and just went down to Brighton. I mean, maybe they were already down there, but they just joined them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, Justin, great talking to you. Love the brand, and like I say, we'll leave the links on the show notes. And next time I'm down the Campfire, hopefully I'll bump into you.
Cheers, man. Thanks so much.
Right. Thanks, Justin. You've been listening to the Menswear Style Podcast. Be sure to head over to menswearstyle.co.uk for more menswear content, and email info@menswearstyle.co.uk if you would like to be a future guest on the show. Finally, please help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next time.